is the backbone of our economy, and today we're here to strengthen that backbone. Indeed. Over the past few weeks, we've traveled the country meeting our workers and our industries. And people understand that we're living in a much more unpredictable and dangerous world. There are things we cannot control, but there are lots of things that we can control. What we heard is this. First, a call for more support. Second, a pride to keep building Canada strong. And third, a shared determination on that mission. The global trade landscape is shifting, and Canada must meet the moment. Our government is building a more resilient, a more independent economy, one that puts Canadian workers and industries first. Aujourd'hui, nous investissons dans nos travailleurs et nos industries. On investit dans les gens de chez nous et dans nos entreprises. Les gens veulent qu'on agisse et c'est exactement ce qu'on fait. On le fait parce que c'est bon pour notre économie et c'est bon pour le Canada. We're doing this not only to protect our economy now, but also to make sure that we're thinking ahead and we're acting for the long term. And together, we're laying the foundation for Canada's prosperity wherever region of this country can grow, succeed, and lead. And with now, indeed, and now, it is my pleasure to present you the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney.
Certainly done. Merci. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Minister Joly. Bonjour tout le monde. It is a great pleasure to be here at Mitsubishi Heavy. And I just want to say a word before I get started about what an incredible company this is. Wade, Luke, thank you for welcoming us here because this is a company that is connected across Canada and is connected around the world. I lived in Japan 35 years ago now. Oh, am I 60? Yes, I am 60. Leading company then, leading company now. And as a signal of the importance of companies like this, a signal of the importance of the issue we're going to talk about today, I'm joined today by Cabinet colleagues, Minister Joly, Minister Champagne, Mr. MacDonald, Mr. Haiju, Mr. De Bruzen, Mr. Lightbound, and Secretary of State Zaruchelli. I'm joined by the Peel Caucus. You are joined by the Government of Canada. We have just come from 2 days of our federal cabinet convening in North York, and we spent those days with a clear focus on delivering our overarching mission in this time of crisis. Our overarching mission is to build Canada's economic strength in face of unprecedented change. Now, here at Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, we're surrounded by examples of that strength. State-of-the-art manufacturing, state-of-the-art assembly expertise, Canadian skill and ingenuity, a supply chain that makes heavy use of Canadian materials such as Quebec aluminum. And workers in this facility are building more than aircraft. They are building a stronger future for their families and for our country. Alors que le nouveau gouvernement du Canada regarde vers l'avenir, nous restons concentrés sur une priorité: donner à nos travailleurs les moyens de le saisir, doubler le rythme de construction de logements au cours de la prochaine décennie, accélérer les grands projets d'intérêt national, mettre en place une nouvelle stratégie industrielle de défense en reconstruisant, en réarmant et réinvestissant dans nos forces armées. Et garder le cap sur 3 objectifs clairs: protéger nos communautés, sécuriser nos frontières et réduire le coût de la vie. The world is changing rapidly. The largest economy, the United States, is fundamentally reshaping all of its trading relationships. And we're moving from an age that lasted decades, an age when free trade was a motor of global economic growth, to a new age, an age of economic nationalism and mercantilism. You know, the U.S. tariff rate is now the highest it has been since the Great Depression in the 1930s. And these tariffs are being applied to all countries on nearly all goods. And the changes in U.S. policy go beyond tariffs. Countries now must, in effect, buy access to the world's largest economy through investments, through unilateral trade liberalization, and policy changes in their home markets. And all the while, the transformation of global trade is occurring against a backdrop of wider economic disruptions, of geopolitical realignment, of AI and other technological transformations, and the necessity, the imperative of a shift to a greener economy. What's going on is not a transition, it's a rupture, and its effect will be profound. Workers displaced from their jobs, supply chains that have existed for decades disrupted, companies forced to change where they find their materials and their products. And all of this is causing an extreme uncertainty that's holding back massive amounts of investment and, as a consequence, slowing economic growth. Just this morning, we see the impact in today's employment report in Canada, with unemployment rising across regions and sectors. This makes decisive action crucial. To be clear, we're in a position right now where Canada currently has the best trading deal with the United States of any of their trading partners. 85% of our trade with the U.S. is now tariff-free. And we have the lowest tariff rate of any country in the world. But we also know that given all those changes, given the rupture, we can't rely on our most important trading partner as we once did. Le libre-échange, depuis longtemps, est un pilier de l'économie canadienne. Pendant des décennies, notre participation croissante au marché américain a constitué l'un des fondements de notre force économique. Le commerce représente près de 2/3 du produit intérieur brut du Canada. Des secteurs comme l'automobile, l'acier et l'aluminium envoient plus de 90% de leurs exportations vers les États-Unis et, dans bien des cas, les chaînes d'approvisionnement sont interdépendants. Ces secteurs sont essentiels pour notre économie en raison de l'ampleur de leur production, des carrières qu'ils génèrent et des collectivités qu'ils soutiennent. Ce qui était autrefois une des plus grandes forces du Canada est aujourd'hui devenu une vulnérabilité. So our relationship with the United States, so essential for so many industries, was once one of our greatest strengths, and in many cases, in certain sectors, has become a vulnerability. This disruption calls for a bold new approach. And given, as Minister Joly said, given that we can't control what other nations do, Canada's government is focused on what we can control. And that means building our strength at home, building Canada strong. That means giving our workers and our companies the tools they need, retraining our workers, transforming our strategic sectors, creating entirely new industries, and being our own best customer by buying Canadian. And to these ends, our new government is embarking on an ambitious plan to secure a new era of prosperity out of this age of adversity. Our new industrial strategy will help transform our economy from being overly reliant on the United States to one that is more resilient to global shocks. A new economy that's built on the solid foundation of Canadian industries, Canadian workers, and it's bolstered by diverse international trading partners. To drive this transformation, we've just launched the Major Projects Office. Its job is to fast-track major nation-building projects. Shortly, we will launch Build Canada Homes just later this month. And that's a new government entity that will help double the pace of housing construction over the next decade, while creating a new housing industry using Canadian technology, Canadian workers, and Canadian lumber. This fall, we will unveil a new defense industrial strategy so that our defense estimates, which will be enormous, our defense investments support the growth of Canadian industries and create Canadian jobs and careers. We'll begin this month our negotiations of a new defense and security partnership with the European Union, and we launched a new trade diversification strategy to develop new export markets. We will soon also release our climate competitiveness strategy to position Canada as a leader in decarbonization. As Canada's new government embarks on these missions, we will work to ensure Canadian businesses and workers have the tools that they need to help drive this transformation. Let me be clear. If we want our economy to grow, and we do, with thriving careers at home and booming exports around the world, we must once again become a country that builds big and builds fast. Because, as Minister Valdez knows, entrepreneurs, builders, dreamers power our economy. They are the engines of growth. And the strategic industries that are being so heavily impacted by U.S. tariffs, steel, lumber, aluminum, copper, our resource sectors, these are the industries that build Canada. And they will be central to our future competitiveness in a world of major infrastructure investment, defense and security, and that unprecedented acceleration in home building. And the government's role right now, in fact, the government's duty right now, is to make sure that our builders have what they need to succeed, so that they have greater certainty about the scale of the opportunities. Because when our builders, our entrepreneurs face calculated risks rather than unknowable uncertainty, that's when Canadian builders and innovators thrive. That's when the whole country rises with them, with higher wages, lower costs, and a stronger economy. So today, to fortify our economic strength, my colleagues and I are announcing a series of ambitious new measures to protect, build, and transform our strategic industries. These are the sectors where workers and businesses have been impacted by those tariffs and trade disruptions. And we're building on our recent initiatives to help transform Canada's steel and lumber sectors. The measures today will help workers acquire the skills and businesses to retool their production, businesses to diversify their products and markets, and, crucially, spurring more demand right here at home for Canadian businesses. The first and foremost, the foundation, is Canadian workers. And we're going to support Canadian workers so they can drive Canada's economic transformation with new skills training and help them seize the exciting, high-paying careers that that transformation will create. To build a strong, confidence workforce that will help propel our economy forward, the government is introducing a new, robust reskilling package to train 50,000 workers. This package will include new methods such as employer-based training and targeted outreach to workers. We will automatically enroll new employment insurance claimants to our new jobs matching program and introduce a new platform with a skills to job tool to make job searches easier and match people more quickly to new jobs, connect them to training opportunities and career counseling. We'll leverage digital technologies and artificial intelligence to help working Canadians find training courses, supported by partnerships with companies such as Indeed, Jubilico, Career Beacon, ZipRecruiter, and eCampus Ontario. We'll also launch new sector alliances across industries, unions, and governments to coordinate recruiting and retraining efforts. And finally, we'll adapt employment insurance to provide a bridge to laid-off workers, giving them the time they will need to pivot. This will include providing long-tenured workers with up to 65 weeks of benefits. That's 20 more weeks than they have access to today. And we'll waive the one-week waiting period for over 700,000 claimants. The second major initiative that we're announcing today is a new $5 billion strategic response fund to help Canadian businesses adapt, diversify, and build that new economy. This fund has three core objectives. First, to help businesses pivot to new products and markets. Secondly, to retrain and retain skills and production here in Canada. And thirdly, to make our businesses globally competitive. So businesses can use these funds to invest in the design of new products, to retool their plants to boost productivity, or to offset the costs of accessing new markets. And the fund will be open to all sectors, given the fact that the tariff impacts are wide-ranging across Canadian industries. La priorité sera accordée aux projets issus des secteurs les plus touchés par les tarifs, comme l'acier, l'aluminium, l'automobile et le bois d'œuvre. Les fonds de réponse stratégique travaillera en étroite collaboration avec nos nouvelles alliances sectorielles pour s'assurer que ces projets d'investissement ne soient pas freinés par les défis du marché du travail. Grâce à une meilleure corrélation entre les travailleurs et l'industrie, nous pourrons former efficacement et jumeler les travailleurs aux nouveaux emplois dans le secteur de demain. The third major thing we're announcing today is a comprehensive Buy Canadian policy. We are on a mission to build Canada strong through major infrastructure projects, through that modern defense industry, and by building millions of more homes. In that mission, the public sector can serve as an anchor customer for Canadian businesses. But for that to happen, a lot of things must change. At present, Canada's public procurement is following outdated rules of that old free trade order that no longer exists. For years, we've been buying as a government significantly from foreign suppliers for short-term gain. Now we need to use government procurement using Canadian taxpayer dollars to spur Canadian businesses for longer-term prosperity. To support Canadian industries, the government's introducing a new comprehensive Buy Canadian policy that will move from best efforts to buy Canadian to a clear obligation to do so. And when Canadian suppliers are truly unavailable, will require local consent and purchases from trusted partners. And these cases will be the exception, not the norm. They'll have to be approved by ministers. We'll apply this approach beyond a narrow definition of the federal government to all federal agencies and all federal crown corporations, leveraging every dollar the federal government spends and invests. And finally, We're going to cut out red tape and simplify access for businesses to those federal procurement opportunities. This is an approach that can also help serve as a roadmap that could be adopted by provinces, territories, and municipalities. Le Canada est un fier défenseur des accords de libre-échange. Nous les respecterons et continuerons de les renforcer avec des partenaires fiables. En parallèle, nous devons mettre davantage à profit nos propres ressources. Dans l'Union européenne, les 3/4 de l'acier qu'on utilise sont produits sur place. Le Canada, en revanche, exporte souvent près de 60% de ses matières premières et importe ensuite les produits finis. With these changes in procurement, we will build more with Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian technology, Canadian workers. We will build big, build bold, build Canadian. Now, I said a moment ago when I started that this is a rupture. It's a big change that's been forced on us in a short period of time. So we need to provide immediate liquidity relief to businesses. There's immense change in a short period of time, and businesses that have relied most heavily on the trade with the United States, such as the auto sector, will need temporary immediate relief from liquidity pressures. Businesses need time to reposition themselves for the future. And for small and medium-sized businesses, the Business Development Bank of Canada will increase loans, the maximum loan size to help with this, from $2 to $5 million. For largest businesses and larger businesses, the Large Enterprise Tariff Loan Facility will provide flexible financing at scale with lower interest rates and longer maturities. We're going to implement these changes immediately to ensure that our businesses can bridge the gap to the future. And it's not all about money. Some of it is about regulation. So to add flexibility to the automotive sector, we will remove the 2026 electric vehicle availability standard, which specifies the share of new vehicle sales that must be electric next year. This will provide immediate financial relief to automakers at a time of increased pressure on their competitiveness. And the government will begin immediately a 60-day review of the EV standard to identify future flexibilities and ways to reduce costs. And we'll advance new options to bring more and more affordable electric vehicles to Canadians. And fifth, we're announcing today that we're acting to protect Canada's agriculture and seafood industries. I'm going to focus on Canadian canola, which has been hit with Chinese tariffs. Also Canadian beef that's been subjected to unjustified trade action since 2021, and Canadian lobster since March of this year. To strengthen these sectors, Canada's government will introduce a new biofuel production incentive, providing more than $370 million to assist domestic producers and help them restructure their value chains. We will make targeted amendments to the clean fuel regulations to spur the development of a vibrant biofuels industry in Canada. And we'll increase the loan limits for Canadian canola producers to $500,000 and invest in agri-marketing and trade diversification measures to support our entire agriculture and seafood sectors. En mars, notre gouvernement a annoncé une initiative régionale de réponse tarifaire pour les petites et moyennes entreprises touchées par les tarifs américains. L'objectif était clair: stimuler l'investissement, mettre de nouveaux produits sur le marché et adopter des technologies novatrices. Aujourd'hui, nous allons plus loin. Nous élargissons ce programme en faisant passer le financement de 450 millions à $1 milliard. En prolongeant les délais de remboursement jusqu'à 9 ans et offrant de nouvelles contributions non remboursables jusqu'à $1 million dans tous les secteurs y compris l'agriculture et les produits de mer. Parce que l'économie canadienne repose sur les petites et moyennes entreprises. Et si nous voulons bâtir l'économie de demain, elles devront investir maintenant. The mission that is guiding Canada's new government, the North Star that we follow, is building lasting economic strength for Canadian workers and their families. With economic uncertainty making it challenging for the private sector to invest, government must act. As Minister Joly said, government is meeting this moment with the most comprehensive suite of trade resilient measures in Canadian history. We're building these measures around 5 principles. A focus on the future to ensure that workers and businesses have the tools they need to pivot to new opportunities. Secondly, we're making sure the application is widespread. The programs are broad in scope because of the scale and breadth of the disruption in trade. Third, we're making sure they're flexible so they can be adapted to changing circumstances. Fourth, making sure they're accessible, making it simple to access them, keeping red tape at a minimum. And finally, they're cooperative. Provinces and territories will have important roles to play, and this national effort requires cost-sharing and collaboration across all levels of government. Ces nouvelles mesures donneront à nos industries et à nos travailleurs les outils nécessaires pour bâtir une économie plus solide, un avenir où l'économie du Canada dépendra moins d'un seul partenaire commercial et reposera sur des bases solides. Un marché canadien fort, une demande canadienne vigoureuse et des partenaires commerciaux diversifiés. To conclude, we look back over our country's history. We've always turned challenges into opportunities. Canadians built the Transcontinental Railway to open new markets for wheat and timber. We retooled entire sectors of this economy in the fight during the Second World War. And then we built hundreds of thousands of new homes in record time for returning heroes and their families. We built a new seaway to unlock the potential of the Great Lakes economy. We forged new trade links for steel and lumber when old markets closed. And now, at this moment of profound change, we bear the same responsibilities, and we should have the same ambitions as those who came before us. Our ambition is to build the strongest economy in the G7. We know we need to act now, invest now, precisely when it's hard. And that's why we're charting an economic strategy to move our country forward, from reliance to resilience, from uncertainty to prosperity. En appuyant nos travailleurs, nos entreprises et nos industries, nous bâtirons un Canada fort. We will build Canada strong with your support. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. We'll now take a few questions. We'll do one question per journalist, no follow-ups. Première question, CTV.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Judy Trin with CTV News. Given that your government is pausing some EV targets and reevaluating the policy, and in your own words, you said you would like to pursue new options to bring more affordable electric vehicles to Canada. Does that mean that your government is also considering lifting the 100% tariffs that your predecessor put on electric vehicles made in China that have triggered punishing tariffs on the canola industry in Western Canada?
Thank you for the question, Judy. The first thing is to say, from our perspective on climate competitiveness, is to develop the competitiveness of our industries everywhere from the resource sector through to manufacturing, through to services, so that Canadian businesses can compete. We can grow foreign markets. We can grow jobs and sustainable jobs here in Canada. And in that regard, there's a series of measures that we're taking and will take, starts from the tax system and works its way out so that the investments in decarbonization are happening here in Canada. You will see some elements of that coming with the major projects when those announcements are made as well, but there'll be a more comprehensive approach for climate competitiveness as part of our global industrial competitiveness strategy, and you'll see that in the coming weeks. That's the first point. So I want to put it into that context. The second is that we are working through, we're at the start of a restructuring in the Canadian auto sector. The suspension of the EV mandate for 2026 is part of helping with that. Crucially, that strategic response fund that we announced today, the $5 billion that's available for retooling, reinvestment, repositioning, we expect heavy use in the auto industry to help with that repositioning. And it is in the context of broader trade discussions, yes, with the United States, first and foremost, given the deep ties between Canada and the United States in the auto sector, as well as other countries. With respect to China, we have begun more intense engagement with China with respect, first and foremost, to canola and other agriculture and seafood products, but it will, I'm sure those discussions will branch out, but it's too early to come to any conclusions on those. Thank you.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Valérie Gavache de Radio-Canada. Vous abandonnez aujourd'hui cette mesure sur les véhicules électriques. Vous avez abandonné la taxe carbone. En même temps, vous avez des députés qui mettent sur pied un caucus vert parce qu'ils trouvent que vous ne vous préoccupez pas suffisamment de l'environnement. Comment vous allez faire pour les rallier? Et puis, est-ce que le Canada est en train d'abandonner ses ambitions climatiques?
Non, pas merci pour votre question. Non, c'est la position du gouvernement du Canada que la lutte contre le changement climatique, c'est une obligation morale, mais c'est en même temps, c'est un impératif commercial, c'est un impératif de compétitivité. Et maintenant, nous mettons l'accent sur la compétitivité de nos entreprises, de nos travailleurs, en ce qui concerne la réduction des gaz à effet de serre. Par exemple, nous avons déjà, mais nous allons renforcer les crédits d'impôt afin d'avoir plus d'investissement dans l'énergie propre. Premier point. Deuxièmement, on va garder le prix industriel du carbone. Il faut améliorer le fonctionnement de ces marchés. Et comme je viens de dire, il y aura une stratégie, une politique de compétitivité du carbone et une stratégie pour la nature en même temps. Alors, on va faire beaucoup, on met l'emphase sur les résultats. Les résultats, c'est-à-dire de la compétitivité de notre économie, de nos entreprises, en ce qui concerne les réductions de gaz à effet de serre. Merci.
Question, CBC?
Prime Minister Tom Harrigan, CBC. Can I ask you, if you're reviewing the EV mandate, are you open to the idea of scrapping it altogether, like the Conservatives are demanding? And I guess how should Canadians, we just asked this in French, but how should Canadians, I guess, see your commitment to Canada's climate goals? And if I could get you to clarify just on another matter, Minister LeBlanc said yesterday you're now pursuing smaller deals on certain sectors with the United States on tariffs. Why are you pursuing that strategy?
Well, let me, I'm going to take the second part first, and I'll come back to you first, which is Minister LeBlanc. What Minister LeBlanc said yesterday is what I said the day before, actually, so it's good to see that we're lined up. We're all lined up in the strategy. What's happening with our situation with the United States, and I'll do this quickly. We have the best deal of any country right now, 85% tariff-free, lowest tariff rate. The issue is the strategic sectors, and it's a big issue. Flavio Volpe is here. Thank you for coming. Flavio, he knows it well. Autos, steel, aluminum, forest products, copper. Those are the big issues. And those are areas that the United States has identified, we would agree, but has identified as strategic. So they have a different tariff regime for those sectors. And the only way to tackle those is to go directly to the sectors and recognize the interdependence between Canada and the United States. the fact that Canada makes the United States more competitive in these sectors and structure agreements in and around there, or look to structure agreements around those. Now, the U.S. has a very tough tariff policy around these, to be clear. So it's real work, it's hard work, but that's where we're focused. That is the, quote, smaller, they're not small, they're big, but sector-specific deals. At the same time, there will be a review of our overall trading arrangement with the United States and Mexico, CUSMA. We have begun the preparations for that. I expect the Americans and the Mexicans will do the same. That will happen, begin in the new year. But effectively, that is the bigger trading relationship, and so the focus for the larger trading relationship shifts to there. With respect to EV mandates, let's be absolutely clear. We have an auto sector, because of the massive change in U.S. trade policy, is under extreme pressure. We recognize that. That's why we put in place the major liquidity facility, and it is an enormous liquidity facility, the large enterprise tariff facility. That's why we're putting in place $5 billion in the Strategic Response Fund. That's why we're working with worker retraining. And that's why we're also looking for Buy Canadian opportunities with that sector, okay, that and other sectors. In that context, the EV mandate this year adds to the liquidity issues they have, the financial challenges that these producers have. They've got enough on their plate right now. They've got enough on their plate right now. So we're taking that off, allowing them to focus, working with them. We're using this as an opportunity as part of a broader strategy on climate competitiveness to look at all our measures to help get greenhouse gases down, as I said a moment ago in French, greenhouse gases down in the key sectors, as well as across the economy. And we'll look at the interaction between the EV mandate, our clean fuel standards, our investment tax credits, our trade policy, all of those elements, because what this government is focused on is absolutely results. Not saying something's going to happen at a certain time, but giving workers and businesses the tools to make it happen.
Prochaine question.
Oui. J'ai déjà répondu en français, en effet, parce que c'était la question en avance, c'était presque la même. Alors, pardon. Madame.
Bonjour, Émilie Bergeron, la presse canadienne. Sur votre annonce, en annonçant autant de mesures aussi vastes, aujourd'hui, est-ce que vous dites aux entrepreneurs, ça peut être encore très long, la guerre tarifaire, armez-vous de patience? Et pourquoi avoir attendu jusqu'à aujourd'hui tout ce temps-là pour que le secteur de l'aluminium reçoive de l'aide financière?
Oui, le processus de la restriction de l'économie canadienne va durer un certain temps. Ça, c'est absolument clair, parce que, comme j'ai dit, c'est une rupture. Les politiques américaines économiques ont changé profondément. Profondément. Oui, il y a des négociations. Oui, on va gagner de plus, probablement, dans les négociations. Oui, on va diversifier nos marchés, absolument. Mais ce processus va prendre du temps. Alors, il faut investir, et en ce moment, il faut investir maintenant afin d'accroître la compétitivité. Alors, c'est la raison pour laquelle d'avoir dans vos mots des initiatives vastes. Alors, en ce qui concerne le secteur d'aluminium, il y a toujours les options d'avoir accès au large enterprise tariff liquidity, la liquidité là. Et oui, maintenant, il y a d'occasion avec le fonds de réponse stratégique, parce que nous avons des discussions tout le temps avec le secteur d'aluminium, ministre de l'Industrie, ministre des Finances et moi-même. Alors, c'est approprié maintenant. Et le montant, comme vous l'avez dit, c'est 5 milliards de dollars, c'est approprié. Ouais.
Pourquoi pas avant?
Ouais, c'est le moment maintenant, c'est fait.
Next question. Is he back?
Good morning, Prime Minister. Good morning, Minister Joly. Prime Minister, you and your office announced yesterday a willingness to support Ukraine with military scalable assistance, military assistance to support a lasting peace of the country. But now we've heard the Russian president reject such security assurances. He says that any troops, foreign troops in Ukraine would be a legitimate target. Does that change at all your stance that was announced yesterday?
Look, President Putin is the cause of this war. He has not yet come to terms with the need for peace. We need to maintain, through the coalition of the willing, other allies, the Ukrainian armed forces need to maintain maximum pressure. That pressure has several aspects. First, obviously the Ukrainian forces themselves and ensuring that they are appropriately armed for in their valiant fight, and Canada has just reinforced that, as have other allies. Secondly, that pressure is economic. It's sanctions. We have put in place sanctions on more than 3,000 individuals, tightening the oil price cap and other sanctions. The next wave of sanctions is being prepared amongst allies, and it will come, and these are having an effect on Russia's economy, and we need to keep there. The third aspect is to make clear that Ukraine will be supported when peace comes, when there is a cessation of hostility. First and foremost, that's the Ukrainian army, but yes, it will need to be backed up by robust and credible security guarantees. That's why Canada is in the coalition of the willing, and through part of that. Mr. Putin is the cause of this war. He's the reason for the killing. He is not going to dictate the terms of the peace.
Next question, Laura.
Morning, Prime Minister. Laura Stone, Globe and Mail. I wanted to ask about our story today on Tom Pitfield. I was wondering if you knew about his ties to the tobacco industry before our story, when you hired him in your office. If you have any moral qualms about his ties to the industry, given the push to stop smoking and vaping, and if he will recuse himself from any health discussions or debates in your office.
Well, the first thing is people in my office, as you know, and Canadians would expect, go through conflict of interest and ethics procedures, and appropriate screens are put in place, and they're followed. That's the case for Mr. Pitfield. That's the case for all the staff in my office. That's the first. The second, there's certain activities which are legal in this country, which I don't necessarily follow or approve of. But you know, that's people. We have tobacco industry in the country. We have people who smoke in this country. It is legal to buy cigarettes in this country. I make no judgment about that.
Thank you.
I can't hear you.
Will he be involved in any health discussions or
I don't know.
Next question, please.
Non-issue.
Good morning, Eric Viano, CBC News. We cover Hamilton and Niagara region, which has a large number of foreign workers. Is your government planning on making changes to the temporary foreign worker program?
Look, I think the first thing I'll say is that what this government is committed to do, and we are putting in place the measures in order to do it. I'm going to give a specific example of some success here with respect to foreign workers in a moment. But our overall commitment, and let's put this in context, foreign workers are about 7% of the labor force, a little more than 7% of the labor force, and we've committed to get that number down to less than 5% by 2027. Okay? So that takes a comprehensive strategy, it's adjustment, and we're talking students, we're talking asylum seekers, temporary foreign workers, all classes, provincial nominee program workers, all these classes of workers. With respect to temporary foreign workers, they are less than 1% of the labor force. We're looking to adjust those levels and the composition of those workers, and one of the things that this government put in place was restrictions to reduce the flow of low-wage foreign workers, so those who are taking the lower-wage jobs in this country. And that flow is down 70% this year. I'll repeat that, 70% this year. So context is important, trajectory is important. We're acting, things are moving. Next question.
Thank you. We'll have time for one last question. Ira?
This is Irek Çakır, Turkish Voice of Canada. Prime Minister, your mandate pledges to attract top global talent while returning overall immigration to sustainable levels. Yet recent data show an uptick in skilled immigrants and even citizens leaving Canada, citing housing and wage pressures, as you know. As you pursue new alliances and define strategic sectors, how will you prevent reverse migration from hollowing out the workforce those sectors need? And what concrete retention targets or measures are you setting to keep up talent here?
Okay. The first thing is, I view your question the following, and thank you for it. It's about having the best quality of life in the world in Canada. And there are a series of things that we're doing that's going to add to Canadian quality of life. I'm going to focus on two. We're in the Peel region. I'll focus on two that are issues here. There are issues elsewhere in the country. And the first is around crime and safety in our neighborhoods. This government is committed to reforming the criminal code to ensure that organized crime, gang crime, crime with handguns, home invasions, auto theft, that the individuals who participate in those crimes pay the price they should with consecutive sentencing, that they are not in a position where they commit a crime one day and they're arrested and then out on bail the next. So bail reform being at the heart of it. We're committed to having more officers at our border, 1,000 more border agents, more RCMP, committed to working more closely with the provinces. And I'll give you a specific example with respect to the last. We've been working with the Council of Federation, all the provinces, on bail reform. We will be legislating on that. We're proposing legislation, I should say, to the House on that next month. I met with Premier Ford this morning as part of an ongoing conversation about how we can address these issues, what the federal government needs to do on the criminal code. I agree with Premier Ford on these issues, and that's why we're moving on them. What the province and the municipality can do in terms of policing more effectively. So we're working very closely. That's one aspect of quality of life. Another aspect of quality of life is housing. In the next few weeks, we will announce the launch of Build Canada Homes as part of doubling the rate of housing starts in this country, including in this region, to help ensure people have homes, have the communities they wish, and help with that. I just want to point out that there are many factors that drive where people live, and where we are focused today, tomorrow, in the future, is on Canadians having the best quality of life possible. Yes, it starts with the economy and responding, meeting to the moment. That's what today's announcement is about, but it also goes to the fundamental of being safe in your community, owning your own home, being able to pay your rent, living a good life.
This puts an end to our press conferences.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Okay.